Also tonight, Local 2 investigates explosions right in the middle of Houston neighborhoods. It's happening year after year with these huge metal tanks that we work by, drive by, and even live next to.
But tonight, experts are telling us that those accidents could have been prevented if Houston would stop ignoring a serious warning. KPRC Local 2 investigative reporter Robert Arnold has been digging for answers now for the past 2 months on this. And Robert, what are we talking about here?
We're talking about pressure vessels. Look behind me. Large metal tanks that house pressurized gases and liquids. These things are everywhere, from chemical plants and refineries all the way down to filling stations. We're surrounded by homes and businesses right now. And when we started looking into explosions involving pressure vessels, we found the city of Houston was warned years ago it needed to adopt tougher regulations to make sure that these pressure vessels don't explode.
From an entire city block on fire in a southwest Houston neighborhood to the death of a mother of 4 at a plant in southeast Houston.
A good mother, a good friend, and a good wife.
2 explosions separated by years and miles, but both explosions have one thing in common: pressure vessels.
The ground shook like really hard, like a movement, an actual movement, and a boom like really loud.
Susan Hernandez was working as a security guard the day a pressure vessel filled with ammonia exploded at the Goodyear plant in 2008. This is what the blast did inside the building. Outside, Hernandez and others were hit with a cloud of ammonia.
When I came back to the main gate, that's when I told her I just can't take it no more, because that's when I started feeling all the burning in my throat.
The explosion killed Gloria McInnes.
Companionship, the love we had.
It's hard for Raymond McInnes to talk about the death of his wife, especially when he knows it didn't have to happen. Government investigators determined the explosion happened because a relief valve on a tank had been improperly cut off. Then there's the Marcus Oil explosion in 2004. All of us watched as flames devoured the area and debris scattered throughout the surrounding neighborhood. But what you probably didn't realize is this explosion was also the result of a pressure vessel. The Chemical Safety Board found an improperly welded metal patch just couldn't stand up against the pressure. We showed you the Marcus Oil explosion, but in 2005, a huge metal lid blew off a pressure vessel next to Highway 225 where thousands of cars go by. In 2007, a worker was killed at a plant just outside of downtown when another pressure vessel blew up. In 2008, a worker was killed when another lid blew off a pressure vessel. After that was the Goodyear explosion.
This was simply a fact of companies not adhering to standard, prudent, recognized practice.
For the past 2 decades, Mike Sawyer has investigated industrial accidents, including the one at Goodyear. Sawyer says there's a strict engineering code for pressure vessels, but neither Texas nor Houston requires companies to follow this code. And something that bothers the Chemical Safety Board so much, it put out this safety message last year.
In 2006, the Chemical Safety Board called upon the City of Houston to adopt this code to better protect its citizens. Unfortunately, Houston has yet to act on this safety recommendation.
When we asked the city why it didn't follow this warning, we were told we haven't had any events that warrant the measure.
This needlessly endangers not just the workers at the plants, but potentially anyone in the community that's around that.
That response we got from the city of Houston, officials with the Chemical Safety Board call it disappointing and narrow-minded. The reason the Chemical Safety Board singled out Houston is because it thought if it could get Houston to adopt this code, that would spur Texas to adopt this code statewide to add that layer of protection and oversight. Right now, Texas is one of only 10 states that does not require companies to follow this code. We are live near downtown. Robert Arnold, KPRC Local 2.
All right, Robert, so given what you've uncovered here, who's watching out for our safety?
Dominique, that's the frustrating part of this. When we talked to the federal government's Occupational Safety and Health Administration, they told us they do check to make sure this code is followed. Operations like Goodyear tell us they do follow the code, yet you see these explosions happen.
All right, good work, Robert. Thank you. In the meantime, Local 2 also spoke with Houston Congressman Gene Green, since many of these plants happen to fall in his district. He told us he supports all industry more closely adhering to these regulations.